chugga 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 choo choo.
Hey, what's happening? Welcome back to another video. Thank you for checking this out. My name is Callie, and today we're going to look at lore to look for Volume 2. A couple things from Shadowlands coming up. A few things in the alpha and beta have come to our attention as far as the ever-expanding lore. And without further ado, we'll jump right in and look at it. First is one that not much information has actually come forward, but it's Odin. There was kind of a little Easter egg, if you will, during 8.3 in the quest line dealing with Magni, Mother, and the plot to destroy Xal'atath, in which they mentioned that Ulduar was offline. Now, of course, the last time we heard Ulduar mentioned was Odin. Odin mentioning he was going back home. Kind of interesting. Odin mentioned he's going back. Now it's offline. And of course, Odin has to play a role in Shadowlands with the entire story of the Eye and what happened with the Eye. And we don't know. And of course, with Helya's return, we can't imagine that revenge is not still on her mind and that maybe her death actually furthered her plot. So that'll be something to look for. One of the big ones we can't ignore is that in the first act of the Shadowlands, the jailer dropped a total bomb on us with the mention of the first one. Of course, I imagine you're going to see a lot of videos, a lot of information about the articles, about the first ones. And the first one is a completely new concept. We've not heard that before. We've not seen anything before that. So really anything is speculation. So, well, anything is actually speculation. And of course, this is a speculation station, so we will speculate on what the first ones are. One theory that's out there is it's dealing with the cosmic forces. And that, of course, was given us in Chronicle Volume 1. And the cosmic forces, of course, were light, life, order, shadow, disorder, and death. 6 of those, which also may tie back into an Il'gynoth whisper talking about the cunning ones kneel before 6 masters but serve only one. But we'll get into that later as far as that goes. But that's one possibility for what the first ones are, that they are the actual head entity of each one of those representation of cosmic forces. Another theory is it's possible it could be the first denizens of Azeroth or of the cosmos. We don't know for sure what was here before the Titans came, because we have to remember the history of our world is only told through the conquerors, technically. I mean, the Titans got here, their sole priority was the world's soul. It's pretty evident that the denizens, if they were here and didn't go along with what plan they had, could have easily been re-originated. We go back to Algalon, and he talks about the millions of worlds that had been cleansed by the Titans if only they had fought back like us. Our free will and imperfections made us different. Of course, that also may be that we are somehow tied to the first ones. Maybe, of course, when we talk about, let's say the theory is that Azeroth was re-originated. Of course, when they talk about re-origination, all that material goes back into the creation of life. Maybe similar to how Yogg infected and corrupted the Forge. Maybe some of the Titan Forge that came out still had some semblance of the first ones. As they got broke down through the curse of flesh, they became the heroes that we are, and that allowed us to almost revolt against the Master's will. And that, of course, could tie into why Yogg says he, flesh is his gift, he's your true creator. Maybe he knew this. Maybe it's all part of his plan. Well, of course, there's a lot we don't know. We're still speculating. Of course, like I said, it could be that the first one is talking about the first denizens of the universe. Maybe that does include Azeroth. That can include Argus. Let's not forget that Xal'atath, her whisper, I'll quote, "Do the Naru speak of the eternal conflict, that the entire history of your world is but a fraction of the time that has passed of those that came before the Draenei?" So certainly, when we think about the story in the long run, I think it's foolish for anyone to say that the WoW team, Denuzer, and all those that's crafting this story is making it up expansion. You can tell that at least sometime after Mists of Pandaria, when you get into Warlords of Draenor, they started tying these elements that were strung out over expansions and still continue. And I think that's what Xal'atath whispers, Il'gynoth whispers, Ogmot's journal, things of that. It's just little hints. That's what's to come. And one day I'm going to break down all the kind of prophetic things we've seen over the last couple expansions and kind of do a longer video and talk about those. But yeah, the first ones, of course, all we know is there's a relic of the first ones. It reacts to us, but not the rest of them, and that we were able to use it to actually escape the maw. Looking forward to more coming out about that. But for now, that's just a couple theories and speculation we could throw out there. And speaking of, just to track back, and that leads us to the next topic of Elune. There's a lot of data mine information coming out about the Night Warrior and Ardenweald and that storyline. We saw the awakening of Ysera. So it seems that the Night Warrior in the Elune Tyrande storyline is going to be a key theme throughout Shadowland. So we may get some answers. I'm going back, of course, to Xal'atath, her whisper inside the Temple of Elune, or the Tomb of Sargeras, if you will. Is my mistake. It seems the upstart goddess still holds sway here. Oh well. Of course, she gets you killed, but it's interesting to call her the upstart goddess. That would have me speculate that Elune is a higher entity than what we've encountered. The Night Warrior storyline, of course, tells us that the Night Warrior and Elune's power stretches across the universe. That she has worshippers other places other than Azeroth. That to me ascends her higher than any entity we know so far. That tells me that her power may be in that upper echelon. When you look back at that cosmology chart, she may be up there closer to the top. It's interesting to call her the upstart goddess. If we stop and think, we're dealing with an entity of the void, regardless of its rank. So what we may be dealing with is something that's climbed in power through some means and become ascended to a greater rank, maybe in the light, maybe just across the universe in general. We've not seen yet we've not seen entities higher than the Titans yet, but we're starting to understand that they're powerful, but not omnipotent level, that there's higher than them, and I think we're going to see that in maybe the Elune storyline. And finally, for this episode of Lore to Look For, I want to talk a little bit about some history, and that being the Whispers of Xal'atath. I think she gives us a few clues that may tie in to the first ones and some of the things we've talked about here. First off is, we talked about the first ones, and with that, let's talk about the fact that there are 4 races that we truly don't know their origin, or at least have a version of an origin we've been told, and that being the Tauren, the Draenei, the Night Elves, and the Trolls. Xal'atath says, the Tauren here are remarkably resilient to corruption, considering their origins. Of course, we know that part of their origins is told to us through the Mogu, and them changing the Yongal and giving us what versions we have today. Prior to that, we don't know where they originally came from. They may have been an original denizen of Azeroth. I like to think back to Ulduar and the stained glass of the merfolk. Prior to that, we've never seen anything that even resembles that in game, so that may have something come back. That's on the Broken Shore. We get told that this conflict is but a shadow of an ancient war that predated the meddling of the Titans. Infinite armies clashed in ceaseless battle, but I'm sure your little war is impressive in its own way. Again, in Battle for Azeroth, we saw the Drust and know that there are more conflict and moving around of, say, Titanforge and other entities that we don't really have history to. This being an example, again, a perfect example is the next 2 whispers here, and that is, this was always a place of power. Egwene was drawn here, and before her, the elves, and before them, the trolls, and before them. So again, hints. There was something before that. Another one. I don't believe these lands have seen such carnage since the Battle of Khaliionwow, such a long time ago. I butchered that word, but you get what I'm saying. Again, a mention of things that happened on Azeroth before we did. So, again, and I think that comes down to one final one. And this is me speculating, but here it goes. This land has seen so much upheaval. The cataclysm, the sundering, the scouring. You really have no idea. Let's focus on the scouring. We know what the cataclysm and the sundering are. But what if the scouring was the Titans coming and wiping the slate clean for their own purposes? What if this has happened before? Maybe multiple times. That would explain all the mentions of the long circle and the cycles that we heard through Legion from different entities, which I'm going to do a video on later because I think there's a lot there. But this is some information that to look back on, and now that we've heard the words, the first ones, may be something to consider. On Argus, the Draenei had the Atamal crystal. They had no idea where they come from. They had existed long before memory. But they guided the Draenei, and it led them, of course, to Azeroth. But we're going to stop there for now. We got a lot more to come up. I'll be doing a video in the next week or so talking about the long cycle and some of this prophetic information that has come out over the last few expansions. Again, thank you for your time. Thank you for checking this video out. If you'd like to request any kind of content or just had a question or something that has maybe escaped you that you would like to hear my take on it, feel free to email me at Khaliionwow@gmail.com. Throw it in the comments below. If you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe. We'll try to have more frequent content coming out, so try to look forward to that. Again, I thank you. Sorry about the accent. We're working on our technical side of it, hopefully to improve things going forward, and have a wonderful day.